Hello and welcome to 60 Minutes or Less, a new podcast from Verticate for Breakfast. I'm Andy Hughes, and for our 9th episode, it's an honour to welcome our first European guest. If we were still in the EU, we would have ticked this off in the first 2 episodes, but since we fucked that when the UK voted to leave the EU, we looked to France and our European friends with an interview with MAUD. I discovered MAUD in 2018 around the release of Pouvoir, their label debut for noted tastemakers Heavenly Recordings. Described by us at the time as a gorgeous sultry affair with a nod to Bjork, we were completely taken in by her cinematic pop and have kept a close eye on her work ever since. In March 2024, MAUD released their new album Celebrate, another via Heavenly, recorded between Paris and LA with a number of tracks produced by Greg Saunier of Deerhoof. We recently spoke with MAUD backstage at the New Century Hall in Manchester ahead of her supporting Jane Weaver. Whilst I've been hammering Duolingo for over a year, I didn't quite fancy my chances of parler français avec MAUD. Alors, enjoy the episode and be sure to tell your friends, both local and international. A bientôt! We're at the New Century Hall tonight. No shade on Band on the Wall, where you were due to play, but this place is quite magnificent, isn't it?
It is.
The
it's
venue.
Amazing, yeah. The ceiling and the walls and everything and the vibe, yeah, it's amazing.
Have you had a chance to explore much, or?
Not yet, but hopefully tomorrow morning, maybe.
Oh, okay. And in terms of the actual venue itself, you know, aesthetically, like you mentioned the lights on the ceiling, I see yourself as quite an aesthetics person. I don't know if you'd agree with that. And it seems to be very suitable for both you and Jane Weaver, who you're supporting tonight.
Yeah.
Would you say that like it's very fitting with the sort of aesthetic that you portray?
I guess so. I mean, I never really thought about, how much the music can fit with the aesthetic of the venue, but that's a very interesting question, actually. But yes, definitely, because there is, in this venue, there is something a bit timeless and at the same time a little bit of psychedelia with all the lights, the different colors. So, I mean, yeah, it all makes sense.
The wood panelling that runs across, it's very... Because I think famously it was a venue back in the 70s or the 60s. And yeah, visually, I suppose you don't book the shows, obviously, when you're supporting someone. But it's a nice change to go somewhere like here, I imagine.
Totally, yeah.
So when I think of your music, the word that I think of is cinematic. And not just on the aesthetics from, you know, how you're portrayed live, but also visually with record sleeves. They feel very, like they've got a cinematic feel to them, I think. And particularly the outtakes of the photos of you with the veil, you know, from the new record. Yeah. And also they look, you know, quite like classic French sleeves of old French artists and such. Is that a big part of it for you in terms of the sleeve when it comes to producing a record?
No, I couldn't say that. I'm really obsessed by the music, and I guess everything else is... I mean, I like to do pictures and everything, and I it's important for me to make them match with the aesthetic, of course. But to be honest, it's not a big deal for me. I just need to feel myself and to show something I couldn't define, I guess, a little bit the same as when I write music. There's something I can't explain with words and that I just can express with music or sometimes with images. And I'm not sure I answer your question, and for instance, I never write lyrics starting from an image or something. I'm not too much into that.
And how does that come to you then, if you're not so much, you know, thinking about that sort of thing? Is it kind of like the music's almost just, you know, it builds inside, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it comes from just like a game, just like you're a child and you put your mother's close, you know, there's something like that. Like, for instance, with the tulle, it's a new obsession to me. I don't really know where it comes from, but I wanted tulle everywhere, and so I bought a lot of tulle in every colors, and we made a lot of images from that. Yeah, it's just playful, and yeah.
Do you think then, are you quite an impulsive person when it comes to that sort of thing? Is that once you've got the idea, you're going to run with it?
Yeah, totally, and it has to be easy to make, and and fast, because I'm very much impatient. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say as well, the music videos themselves, they are similarly, you know, cinematic. So with, you might have to help me with the pronunciation, Pesnybojka, is it a Polish Bulgarian.
Yeah.
And the snowy mountain aesthetic of My Desire Is Pure, the latter, which feels very much like a less romantic Last Christmas by Wham, I thought when I saw it.
Oh, say it again.
You know, Last Christmas by Wham. You know, George Michael.
Okay.
With the snowy landscapes and the.
Okay, I don't know. They made a video in the mountain. That's what you were telling me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I don't know this video, unfortunately.
It was big in the UK.
Okay.
But yeah, it's very the lovely setting with the. Was it the French Alps where you filmed?
Yeah.
Again, is that kind of like? Is that something where you do involve yourself? Or is that you'll give the idea to a director, or?
Basically I give the main idea to the director, and in that case I knew I wanted to shoot in the mountains, in the snow, because of the symbolic of the white and the pureness, and that's it. And I think I just wanted to sing my song, and that's it, in the mountains.
And I think you achieved it.
Yeah.
Really nice coat as well in the video.
Yeah.
And I did like as well at the end, not to spoil it for people, but it's got that brilliant ending with the flower as well.
Yeah, that was the other idea.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
I just thought that was, you know, such a cool little nifty idea. So when you put the idea to, you know, a director, I think, is it the same director for?
Yeah. Terres Infinies and Terres Infinies we both directed, but My Desire Is Pure, Pesnybojka, and the latest one as well. Yeah.
And how is it to see, you know, that small vision that you've got to then be these brilliant, picturesque videos? Or is it a case of it's kind of just there for you?
No. It's always. I said before that I didn't really care, but I mean I care, and I'm really a control freak. So at the end, I really want to make it. I mean, I really have to be comfortable with the images I will show of myself. So, and in this case, for My Desire Is Pure, I was pretty happily surprised by the result.
Yeah. So the new record, Celebrate, named in part because I read that you said you did a lot of dancing when it was produced. Mm-hmm. So we went to a wedding last year in France, and the French people danced until, you know, like 6, 7 a.m. and the wedding didn't start until like late in the evening. So it seems like a very joyful record in terms of the dance, and I can appreciate that the French people love to dance. Was there anything else that went into the production where you thought about the title, or again, was it kind of just like, here's a title, that's what I want?
I'm not sure to understand your question. Do you mean if I found the title and then do things to match with the title?
Or the other way around?
No, most of the time I do things. I write songs, and at the end I listen to everything again, and I'm like, okay, I think I understand now what I did. There's something like that. So the title came very late in the process, and everything was done already.
Does that work the same way with titles for songs as well, do you think? Or,
yeah. Or it can be, for Last Day Song, for instance, the opposite. That is to say, it was a work title at the beginning, and I had no lyrics, and I wrote the lyrics because of the work title.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah. So I read somewhere that you said about happy studio accidents that can occur, and obviously with that being a working title that then worked its way around, have you had any particular notable happy studio accidents or that unlocked something that you were trying to figure out in the studio?
There have been so many. I can't even remember now. But, yeah, there have been so many. For instance, Iceberg is starting from, I mean, the music is starting from me fucking up, pitching a guitar.
Okay.
Much too slow, and it gave this very low, weird guitar sound, and it made the sound, the main sound of the song at the end. So that kind of things, but there have been so many I can't even remember. Yeah.
On that song, that's the song with Flavien Berger. I think that was correct pronunciation.
It was a great pronunciation.
Thank you. So I read that you had seen him in a dream, and then the next day decided to message him. Is that touching kind of on what we were talking about before? Is that you feel like you have to act upon that sort of impulse?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I don't know, it's a bit naive maybe, but I really believe in that kind of signs, and also it makes life much more enjoyable and surprising, and so I like to follow that kind of signs. Yeah.
Did anything else like that come up with the production of the record?
Well, the main life event for me producing that record was to work with Greg Saunier, who were and who is still one of my favorite musicians of all time. So it was a bit crazy for me to get in touch with him, even if we had already met once. And so that was the kind of things I thought to myself, like, okay, just try and you'll see. And to be honest, I was really, really stressed when I was about to ring at his door in LA. I was like, oh my God, what I'm doing. But this is the kind of experiences that really change your life. And in the case of a music career, that really care, even if your record doesn't sell, or even if whatever happens, you made something that had much sense for you.
So what was it like having that experience with Greg? I assume it was just a case of you informally got in touch with him, and then 1 minute, like you say, you're knocking on ringing his doorbell in LA, and then the next minute he's helping produce some tracks on the record. How was that from the seed to the actual?
I don't know. I think at first it seemed a bit surreal. Does it make sense? It was all pretty much like a dream, and there are a lot of stories of dreams in that record. You mentioned the one with Flavien Berger. So it was the same. And what is funny is that after I came back to France, and we kept on working together remotely with Greg, and so we sent to each other a lot of messages, and he made so many funny dreams about that record. So it was a lot about dreams and that kind of things.
Is he very much a similar sort of person in that respect, creatively, or Greg?
Yeah. Do you mean if he follows that kind of
impulse?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And maybe much more than me, even much more than me. Yeah.
So I read as well that you'd said discovering Deerhoof was one of the biggest musical shocks of your life. And I think when Deerhoof are written in comparison with any other band or in the production of anything, it's kind of like a stamp of approval. you know, like
Yeah.
a thumbs up. So what was it here in Deerhoof that got you so into them, and you know, what was the period where you were so enthralled by them?
Do you mean if I felt like the fact that I worked with Greg made me feel confident or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Especially when you're creating something, you of course you live a lot of doubt at some point, and when one of your favorite musicians ever wrote to you that you're an amazing songwriter or something like that, it helps you a lot.
Yeah. So the record itself was produced in Paris and LA, is that right?
Yeah, and in many other places, because I moved a lot during the process. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How was it putting a record together whilst you were moving?
It didn't change anything because I've got very little gear with me, so basically a laptop, a guitar and a keyboard, so yeah, it's very easy to move.
And was the choice with Paris because do you live in Paris?
I used to live in Paris at that time, yeah.
So was that more a case of it was produced in Paris because that's where you lived?
Exactly. Exactly.
Because we visited Paris a few times over the past few years, and we fell in love with it. Even though it is cliched in popular culture that it's this romantic place and the Tour Eiffel, it is such a wonderful place, isn't it? So does that come across to you when you're producing a record, or is it just home?
No, it is just home. And it's funny because I had this discussion this morning about that, about how you need to be to write and to be creative, and I really need to be at home. So I made an exception with Greg, of course. Yeah. But yeah, I really need to feel very comfortable, very at home to make music and to be productive, yeah.
And how did you find it then, doing some of the production in LA? Was it just a case of coming out of a comfort zone, or? It was
it was a bit challenging, and also because of the different language. Sometimes it was a bit difficult for me to express what I wanted or to understand what Greg meant. So it was challenging, and also because he works much more faster than me, and so I learned a lot about that, about just doing things and not thinking too much before doing.
When you listen to Deerhoof, you can believe that he works very fast, because he is such a frenetic.
Yeah, but at the same time, there are so many ideas, so many details. It's like I don't know the word in English, like dentelle. It's really. I miss my words, but it's both very instinctive music and very, very refined music. Does it make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's what's amazing.
I was hoping then that I would have been able to translate the word
with
my Duolingo French, but it's not there yet. So, as well as your own record, you recently collaborated with Chemical Brothers for their record. So, number one, how was that, getting involved with them? And number two, did that, similar with Greg, did that feed into anything to do with your record in terms of learning things from them as producers?
Not really, just because most of the record was already done when I recorded for the Chemical Brothers. And it was also different because it was all done remotely. Okay. I've never met them.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so funny. And it was during a weird period because it was during the pandemic. So, and especially that moment when I recorded the first tracks, we were locked down in Paris. So, and I was living alone at that time, so I was a bit out of time, out of reality. And to be honest, when I received that email asking me to sing on the record, it felt out of reality. I was like, oh wow, this is really cool, but it feels like surreal. So it was a weird time. So yes, I'm not sure it had so much impact on my own music on that record. Yeah, because again it was almost done, but it was an amazing experience, of course.
Did you ever think when the email did come in that it was just
a joke?
Yeah.
I couldn't really, because I received first a message from my label, so it was really official. Yeah. But if not, I surely had thought it was a joke.
Because some crazy things happened during the lockdown, didn't they? So
that's true.
So working with Greg and working with Flavien, collaboration is obviously quite rife on the record. We spoke with another artist called Rosie Plain.
Oh yeah.
And she said when you collaborate with people, you have so much to learn from them, and the limits of what you can do are suddenly opened up. So with Celebrate, I saw on Bandcamp, the list of collaborators is quite deep.
Mm-hmm.
How was it being able to work with all these different artists and still being under your header rather, but being able to use them in all these different tracks and the production?
Yeah, it's weird because I think I never worked with so many people on a record, and at the same time I have never spent as time alone. So it's both sides, and I think I really need both, of course, because I really needed other people, other artists, how do you call that, just vibe and everything, and I guess I still have too many things to prove to myself to be able to let it go totally. Maybe not on the next one, but maybe on the next after, I'll be able to just maybe write demos and give that to someone to write riff. I would like to be able to do that, to be honest, but now I'm not able. I'm too control freak, and I need to prove to myself that I can do certain things, that I need to make certain obsessions real, just to get rid of them, and to do something else then.
So how was that coming into that process of saying, not only am I going to work alone, but I am going to work with these other people? How was it initially? Was it quite similar to working with Greg? Was it quite difficult to not relinquish, but to offer up?
No, and it was it happened step after step, So to be honest, before writing the credits of the record, I have not realized there are so many people on all the songs. So it was step after step, and I called people when I thought it would be better played by someone else than me, I guess.
I found it interesting with the gear chat that you were talking about.
Yeah.
That you've got just the one guitar. I have got it written down what sort of guitar it is. A 60s silver. Yeah. I'm sure you can tell me more about it yourself, but what is it about this guitar that you vibe with so much? Is it just that it is a guitar and it's a tool, or is there something about it that you particularly enjoy?
It's hard to say now, because it's been I've been playing on it for many years now, so I guess it's an easy guitar to play because it's a short scale, it's light, and it has a very special sound. It doesn't sound really like a classic guitar, like a Fender or I don't know. I like when sounds, and that the same with keyboards, I like when sounds don't remind me anything else. So it's starting from my own references. Of course, it might remind something to someone else, but for me, it has to be new. And I don't know. It's also maybe because with the same guitar, but when you get a new pedal, for instance, you get a new sound. So I'm not bored yet. of this guitar, and I think I still have to things to play with.
Yeah, and you can always insert a new pedal, like you say.
Totally.
Is it the sort of thing where the guitar goes from home to studio to New Century Hall, or have you got, because you know some bands obviously with different tunings and stuff, they have like 15 guitars, don't they?
No, I'm not that kind of musician. I really have one guitar.
Yeah. But that's kind of, there's something quite cool about that as well, isn't there? Because it's rather than have something that's kind of throwaway, that is your tool, so to speak.
Yeah, totally. It's a bit like my dress or something, you know. Yeah. It's that. It's a closer link than just a simple guitar. Yeah.
With the first album, again, pronunciation, you'll have to bear with me, but Je suis une île. It was said to be more introspective, it literally translates to I am an island. Its follow-up with Celebrate is said to be more expansive and open. So was this, again, a conscious thing between albums where you thought this one's going to be more open? Or
yes, maybe that's the only thing I told to myself before doing the record, is that I really wanted something less introspective and more open to the world. Why? I'm not sure, because I don't know, because I guess having this in mind would lead me to do something a little bit different, so maybe it was a little bit of a challenge for me. I needed to make a new record.
Is there anything else, you know, where you have things coming into the record, or again, like you say, was that just literally the only thing that you thought going in, and the rest of it kind of developed?
Maybe the other thing was I wanted to be able to dance more on stage, I would say, which is not totally possible actually, because I play a lot of guitar, so I'm a bit. But I had that in mind as well.
Does that factor a lot into when you think about the production of music, how it's going to come across in a live setting?
I try not to think too much about anything else than just what I am doing, but yeah, for sure, with my tiny experience, I had to think a bit about the shows, because just to make them enjoyable.
And not just stood still on stage? Or
yeah, totally. And also because sometimes I didn't want to make it too much complicated to play on stage. Yeah.
Was there ever any nervousness that Greg was going to throw in some crazy, drum pattern? Or
yeah, actually it was because he played on some songs, but some other songs of the record are played by a French musician called Arnaud Biscay, and who is more into jazz and Afrobeat a lot. Is amazing at that. And so it was really challenging to find the right person to play both style of drummings. And I'm lucky enough to have found amazing drummers, and you'll see tonight he's called David Newington, and he's got an amazing band called Boyazuga.
Oh, yeah, Welsh guy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Right.
And he's amazing.
Yeah, because he's part of Heavenly as well, is that right? Right, okay. Yeah. Is there quite it feels very much like a family thing with Heavenly, is that about right?
Yeah, that's it. And I'm maybe the I'm not less in the family, but the fact that I'm French and I'm not living in London, maybe I'm the further from the family than the other artists. But yes, there's a familiar atmosphere, and they're all music lovers, and it's an amazing label. Yeah.
And you're the cousin that lives in France.
Yeah.
So ahead of this, kind of ties in what you said before. ahead of releasing Celebrate, you said that it felt that you could now release it into the air. And many artists say that once they've produced an album and it's released, that it's everyone's and it's not just an insular thing. Mm-hmm. Do you feel very similar in that sense, that it's still obviously your record, but it kind of belongs to everyone in a sense?
No, it doesn't make so much sense for me, but I don't feel it belongs to me, and I don't feel it belongs to another. I feel music is belonging to everyone who wants to own it, if that makes sense. Yeah, so no, I'm not too much into that thought.
That process, yeah.
That process,
but it's you've released it, it's out there, basically.
It's out there, but it's just like it was not really mine. I just catch the music in the air.
Yeah.
And put it on a record. Yeah, it's a weird symbol, but I feel more like that.
Some people have that thing where they can see colours with music. Mm-hmm. Is that a not too dissimilar thing with yourself in the production? Not the colours aspect, but that you pluck these ideas whilst you're producing from the air, kind of?
No, I don't think so. As I mentioned before, I'm really music obsessed, so music is music, you know. It's really, as simple as that for me,
So with the lead single from the record, Terra's Infinies, yeah. So that came off doing the flip side of being haunted by the striking imagery in a 70s Soviet sci-fi film I read. Where else did you find inspiration when you were producing the record?
Oh, in everything, I guess. Nothing in particular, you know, except this movie, maybe. But in everything I love, it can be music, it can be photographs, it can be paintings. I think of Joan Mitchell, the American painter. In the people I love, it's really, in everything.
And this is going to be hard to even formulate this as a question, but Andy Votel, who's DJing downstairs, I believe, tonight, he said when he remixed your song that he could only dream of finding a singer that comes close to Léonie Lousseau or Anne Sorel. So not just the French aspect, I'm sure, from Andy Votel, but how does it feel, you know, having such comparisons when it comes to you as a singer, or is that not something you think about?
I don't know. I try not to. Of course, it's a pleasure to hear it, and I just try not to make much importance on that. Yeah, I'm just honored that Andy Votel made an amazing remix on my songs, and that's what is important to me. Yeah.
And lastly, you mentioned, obviously, not the next record, but the next record. You mentioned the third or the fourth record moving forward. So are you working on new material?
Oh, yeah, I am.
Are you demoing? And
yeah, for the next one, I am. Yeah, I've got a lot of material, actually, already.
And is that guitar, laptop, pedals at this point?
Maybe more keyboards that time. Yeah, so far, but it can change a million times until it is finished.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And have you got any semblance as to where it's going, or?
No, not yet. Mm-mm.
Just see where the air takes you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly that, yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.